talk some football. I say we quickly just recap this
Thursday.
past week and some of the top stories, and then we can look ahead to next week and
Okay.
some exciting games coming up. But yeah, starting off as we expected out of that Steelers Browns game, just not a very exciting game to watch. Two not so good teams. The Browns, they played pretty well. They're doing what they can with like Chubb taking over. Amari Cooper's finally stepping it up. But Jacoby Brissett's just not a great quarterback, and a very different team they will be come week 12 with Deshaun Watson out there. But there's not an exciting team to watch, in my opinion.
They're not good.
On the Browns end, Myles Garrett got in that car accident.
It was apparently to dodge an animal, and he flipped the car multiple times. So we'll
scary.
see if he's healthy.
Not a big fan of him, but obviously wishing him the best. Hope he's all right.
Yeah, we'll see. I wonder if he'll be out because it's non-life-threatening injuries, but he was in the hospital. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe a week. And then the Steelers they just have nothing going for them. Like
they're atrocious.
It's funny because I was working on the Matthew Berry show for my job, my old job, and Berry was talking about how come week 9, which is the Steelers' bye week, Mike Tomlin will switch to Kenny Pickett. But I think it could happen much sooner than that because the Steelers are 1-2.
Yeah.
Trubisky's just not looking great out there. Like he's not really hitting his receivers. Najee's not being, he can't do everything. He's been doing fine so far this year, but the Steelers are definitely in trouble.
Yeah, it's they look a lot different. Wait, did he give you a shout out, Matt Berry? I watched the show and he said something, but he said Steven. I was like,
not probably a different Steven.
I hate
that's one of my bosses, Steven. He was one of the producers.
Who the fuck could that be?
He spells his name with a PH, so he's not a real Steven. But
you can't trust those guys.
You
can't. Yeah, like you were saying, I mean, Mitch Trubisky didn't have a terrible day. I'm just looking at it. He was 20 for 32. But Najee is always – this is why I was so off Najee this year. He's super inefficient, and the offense is not good. So, he got bailed out by that touchdown, but he was 15 for 56. It's 3.7 a carry. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And he doesn't break off big runs either. So, not to say he's a bad player, but he's just very inefficient. And why aren't they getting George Pickens involved? I don't understand that at all. He's super talented. He had an unreal catch, which I'm sure you saw.
Yeah.
Where it looked like OBJ.
Yeah, Odell-esque.
And then they just didn't pass on the ball after that. He had 7 targets, but he was 3 for 39. I feel like you can get him more involved. The Browns are making the most out of a horrible situation.
Yeah. They're 2-1. Yeah, they're just right there at the Ravens, obviously very early in the year, but very competitive division. One of the more competitive divisions with the Browns, Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals.
More than we thought, I feel like. We'll get to that. But let's see. What's another game that happened? So that was the Thursday game. I was actually at the Yankee game when that was happening. I mean, I didn't give a shit about that game, obviously. Who cares about watching Jacoby Brissett against Mitchell Trubisky? But I saw the end play.
Yeah.
Where I don't know why they all try to do this, but I thought it was so funny. They blew so many bets because of this. Because they hit on the over. Chase Claypool had 30-something yards and then lost 5 because of it, and Najee fumbled, and the defense scored a touchdown. So great for me for fantasy, but I don't know if I would have won actually now looking at it without that. But I mean, that was a funny end. But let's move forward onto the actual Sunday slate. I will tell you, so my sister's boyfriend is doing this thing called Pick'It. It's an app he created, which is basically, it's like the name. You basically are picking which team wins. I almost got every single one wrong. This was a bad week for guessing. So speaking of, did you watch many of these games or watch the replays? Obviously, watch the Eagles game, but
yeah, I saw the highlights for most of them. I didn't get to watch the games, but like some of them were just really interesting. Like one probably, in my opinion, like just looking at the slate, like the game of the week was probably before the games happened was the Bills and at the Dolphins. Just two undefeated teams going at it, and most people, I don't know how heavily favored they were, but the Bills were obviously favored in that game. Tua goes down with a concussion, and he got rocked, which was like such a shame because all that happened was he just got pushed after the throw. And I don't think a penalty was called, but he just got shoved and he fell back and whacked his head, and then he like tried to get up and walk and fell right back down.
But
I think the Dolphins will be fine for that because I don't think they handled the concussion protocol properly.
I agree with you. I was gonna say, like they called it a back injury, which is like it's mind blowing to me. Like he was stumbling and it's all concussion symptoms, and I can't believe you put him back out there. And we know the Dolphins are kind of a sketchy organization after what happened this offseason.
Yeah, and it just like wasn't a very, very defensive game. Not a whole lot of offense. I mean, Josh Allen just keeps doing Josh Allen type things, threw for 400 yards, a couple touchdowns, but Diggs was pretty much kept in check for how he's been playing. Tyreek Hill was kept in check. Waddle had another good game, but just not a whole lot of offense. And then the ending of the game was just the most surprising part because just clock management was the key there. The Bills were driving down the field to try to secure a 22-21 victory. And I think what happened was I could be getting the player wrong, but Josh Allen connected with Isaiah McKenzie with like 15 seconds left, and he just didn't even get anywhere near going out of bounds, and they tackle him, no timeouts left, and the clock runs out before they can snap it. And it's just like football 101, like got to get out of bounds.
He also missed Isaiah McKenzie in the end zone. He threw it into the dirt, which is wild. And then I don't know if you saw this, but they came out with, there's a tweet that was like Josh Allen. They're like, if this was Tua and they flipped him to be lefty,
it looked just like Tua.
It's just right. But no one cares when it's Josh Allen. It's really funny. Like the world is against Tua.
Oh yeah, big time.
It's pretty funny. I thought that was a crazy end to that game.
The Dolphins are looking pretty good.
Dolphins are pretty good. They're pretty
only
good.
Undefeated team left in the AFC, and then this Thursday they're going up against the Bengals, which should be one of the better Thursday night football games.
Yeah, can you wait for the white Bengal jerseys? That will be so sick. Another shocking game in my eyes, Chiefs Colts. I mean, the Colts have looked horrendous.
Yeah.
Like horrendous. They tied the Texans, lost to the Jaguars in week 2. I kind of forget. I think it was the Jaguars last week.
Yeah. They got spanked.
Jaguars look good in their own right, but we'll get to that. But it just came down to the very end. New York. It just came down to the very, very end, which was very surprising. Michael Pittman came back.
Mahomes didn't play really well.
Yeah, Mahomes threw a pick in the last drive, and game over. It was a surprising loss. I mean, the Chiefs do have some of these every year where it's just like they look like gimmies and they just lose very handedly. So, do you hear that?
Yeah.
New York for you. I love New York.
Another reason to move to Philly.
No, I get more for my space. It's true. I mean, after visiting my sister in Arlington, Virginia, I was like, wow, I hate my life. What a nice apartment she has. Shout out your apartments. Fuck. Anyway, so that was really surprising. Also, Jonathan Taylor has not played that well this year. Very surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, week 1 he played really well. He had like 160 rushing yards, but the past 2 weeks he's been kept in check.
I guess just to the standard that we're used to.
Yeah. But the Colts just aren't a good team. I mean, they have like they live and die by JT and Michael Pittman, but other than them two, Matt Ryan just has not looked good on his new team.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's not looked great. I mean, they just look horrendous. Like their defense hasn't looked that good. And you would think they'd be way better too. They were so good last year.
But it's just a game that the Chiefs should have easily won. And then they have a tough one this week. Pretty sure it's the first time these teams are playing since the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But the Chiefs are playing the Bucs, and that'll be a fun game to watch.
That'll be a cool game. And we're gonna get Mike Evans back. Julio should be back. Maybe Godwin, but I wouldn't count on it. So it'll be fun. That'll be a good game to watch. Carlton Davis against I don't know. I guess MVS, Juju, Tyreek Hill. Sorry, not Tyreek Hill. He comes back from Miami for one more game.
Yeah, we'll see. But just like look at another game that was interesting to me. I mean, the Bengals 0-2. They didn't start off the season that well, but the Jets just are getting too much hype. I don't know why they get so much hype, but the Bengals handled them really easily. And then the game that was interesting to me was the Titans at Raiders, 2 0-2 teams going at it, and Derrick Henry finally showed up. And what do you make of the Raiders? Like, is it Derek Carr? Is it just the coaching? Like, I thought they had a lot of good things coming this year for them with Josh McDaniel, new head coach, Devontae Adams, who's been great. But after week 1, he's been kind of kept in check. He's had touchdowns in all 3 games, but they just don't look good. They're not getting Waller involved. I didn't really expect much from Josh Jacobs going into the year.
Waller missed so I don't know if you saw the highlight of this, but right at the end of the game, the Raiders are making a push, and Waller had one that goes right through. It like hit his hands and went off his hands. He should have caught it, and it was intercepted, which ultimately ended the game. I don't know what to make of that. Honestly, the Raiders have not looked good. I don't really know if you're supposed to attribute that to Josh McDaniels, but Hunter Renfro's hurt right now, but they're just, their offensive line we knew was terrible, but I don't know. Like, they look really bad. And that was a game they needed to win. The Titans don't have they have a decent defense, but if you lose to the Giants, you can't really say much. And the Raiders should have done more. It's very surprising. And I guess we could just go right into this one also. We're kind of skipping around, but this is AFC West. I cannot believe how bad the Broncos are. Like, they barely got the win. They look so bad. The AFC West being this unbelievable division that we all thought that they were going to be is just not happening.
This game was just atrocious because the final was 11-10, and at the end of the third quarter, the score was 7-5 to the 49ers. And it's just no offense. Garoppolo didn't look good. Russell Wilson's looked horrible. You see on the Peyton and Eli cast, I don't know if you were watching last night, but Eli goes, they should have paid their punter. The Broncos should have paid that punter all the money instead of Russell. And I don't know if Russell's just, doesn't have it anymore, if it's because he's on a new team, but he just has not looked good.
It's just embarrassing that they spent they just gave him an extension to be paid $250 million, only to not have him throw. They were on 4th and inches at one point in this game, and instead of doing a QB sneak, which is successful, I'd probably say 90% of the time, they decided to punt it, which is the Peyton's joke, obviously, is that the punter should have been paid that much money. I think it's partly due to I think Russell is not what he used to be, maybe. I don't know, really.
Yeah.
They're a horribly coached. Nathaniel Hackett is way in over his head.
And the thing is, when you look at their offense, they have talent. They have a pretty strong run game with Javonte Williams, who's been great, and Melvin Gordon when he's not fumbling the ball. Courtland Sutton's been Russell's number 1 target, and he's, when he's healthy, he's fantastic. But other than that, hasn't been getting Jerry Jeudy involved.
Nope.
Albert O hasn't been used at all.
Nope.
So they just don't have they don't really have anyone.
They have a lot of weapons, and it's just weird. They started out That was probably one of the single worst games I've ever watched in my life. I will not even BS you. That was one of the worst games ever.
Yeah.
And it's just disappointing because you'd think now Jimmy G has an entire week to study the playbook and be the starter. He would look a little bit better. But of course, like then he, is backed up on the 2, backs all the way into the end zone and steps on the line to save Dan Orlovsky as being the only other person to do that. And then throws it. And then to make it worse, before it's even called, throws a pick 6. Like it was just, that was the epitome of like what that game ended up being. It was just
one of the more beautiful plays.
Yeah, honestly, like Russell Wilson and the Broncos went 3 and out. I think the first five plays.
Yeah,
like, it was just such bad football. And stop giving it to Melvin Gordon when you have Javonte. Like, what are you doing? Another gross game to watch was the Packers and the Bucks. I don't know if you had a chance. I watched that game.
Yeah, I mean, expect a shootout out of that one, and 14-12. Like, what happened this week? People just didn't eat their Wheaties.
Yeah, God, I hate when that happens. It was ugly. I mean, Aaron Rodgers did not look incredible. They looked really dominant in the beginning of the game, and then it just kind of seemingly fell apart. The run game couldn't get going. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon both did not play well.
Yeah,
that happens.
Like the same stat lines: 12 touches for 36, 32 yards each.
And that happens. Like the Buccaneers have probably one of the best defensive lines, even without Akeem Hicks was out. They still have Vita Vea, who's a monster. Like they have a very good defense.
Uncle Lenny promised touchdowns, and all he produced was 35 rushing yards.
He was horrendous too. And then I felt so bad for Brady watching him drive down the field with backup receivers and then just to have one after the other drop them on like crucial plays, including Cole Beasley dropped a really important one too. I mean, it's hard to win a game when you have that happening constantly. So we'll see what happens when he gets some weapons back. Russell Gage looked decent. He also dropped a gimme at one point in that game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He got a lot of targets.
It was brutal. Romeo Doubs played pretty well, but like, that again, like Lazard had a touchdown and Christian Watson will probably be back in next week. So we'll see how he played. He dropped a very easy one in week 2, I believe it was, on a 75-yard touchdown. Also dropped it.
Before we talk about our 2 teams, let's just kind of go through each game, the rest of the games we haven't talked about, just highlighting the main things. Like the Panthers beat the Saints 22-14, and that was probably a pretty boring game to watch. I mean, Kamara didn't do anything. Michael Thomas got injured again.
Chris Olave played really well.
Chris Olave played pretty well. McCaffrey did okay. But Baker gets his first win as a Panther.
Here's a question for you. If you have DJ Moore in fantasy and or dynasty, what the hell do you do with him? He had 1 catch for I think 2 yards.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's taking him, but I'm trading him. I'm getting rid of him. I solely didn't draft him. As good as he is, the past, I don't know what his streak is, but he has like a very long streak every year of. I'm kind of curious. I'm gonna look it up, but
it's like 1,300 yards, 4 touchdowns,
something like that.
It's something around there.
He's been in the league for 5 years.
And he's a stud receiver too. He really is. He's so good.
The past 3 years, he's had over 1,100
receiving 1,100. Okay.
But yeah, just going into the year, I was just like, I'm gonna stay away from him because I just don't trust that offense. I don't trust Baker, rightfully so. But they get their win. They get the job done.
Christian McCaffrey's not even catching passes.
McCaffrey's been non-existent.
He's been great on the ground, but
yeah,
so weird.
In the Ravens game, Mac Jones gets hurt, so the Patriots are in a lot of trouble.
Oh, they're in. Did you know Brian Hoyer's first name was Axel?
I did not know that.
I know, right? That would have been the sick name. Axel Hoyer's coming in. Anyway,
this might be a hot take, but as of right now, for the MVP favorite, it's always a quarterback. You throw in Josh Allen, you throw in Jalen Hurts, but right now I think you have to give it to Lamar Jackson. He's been lights out.
And his price is going up and up and up.
Yeah.
They should have retained him when they had the chance. This is going to be tough for them to.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I mean, look, he bet on himself, and there was a good chance that this was going to happen. He was really hurt last year. So, I mean, he's so good when he's not hurt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Mark Andrews is unreal, too.
Yeah, he's so good. In the Vikings game, which is kind of interesting, they won 28-24 over the Lions. That was a fun divisional game to watch because Dalvin finally played well.
And they got hurt.
Getting got hurt. DeAndre Swift got hurt. Yep. So the Lions are a good team. They just can't seem to muster up wins. And then your main man, Justin Jefferson, has just been kind of non-existent since week 1.
Yeah, they were triple teaming him. So guys are getting really open, like with KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen got his 50th touchdown, which is kind of cool. Yeah, like he only had 2 catches for like 14 yards, I think it was. Basically non-existent. They're gonna try to work him in more. I'm not really worried about it.
Should trade him,
but yeah. AJ Brown. Just kidding. I don't want the
Eagles.
I'm down. No, but yeah, I think he'll bounce back. But the Lions are a damn good team, really are. I love watching them. And Amon-Ra, I think, actually also got hurt in this game.
Yeah, Amon-Ra got hurt. He kind of kept quiet.
So he's awesome. I love Amon-Ra. But we'll see
what happens next week. The Bears beat the Texans. Nobody watched that game, but the Bears got a win.
Dameon Pierce had a good game.
I think they're 2-1.
They are 2-1, and they're playing the Giants next week. So one of the Giants or the Bears will be 3-1.
Yeah,
imagine saying that. The Chargers, Jaguars.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that game, but the Rams beat the Cardinals, the Falcons beat the Seahawks. Pretty boring games.
Boring game. Kyle Pitts.
Finally. What do you make of that Jaguars game? They're 2-1.
Dude.
They're just such a very different team from last year, and it all has to do, in my opinion, just with coaching. I'm not trying to hype up Dougie P because as much as I love him, he won us a Super Bowl. He's really nothing special at this point. It's just he knows how to coach a football team. They look like they're well coached out there. Trevor just needed a new coach. Urban Meyer was just a distraction, and the past 2 games, if you look at the games that they've played, they've dominated the games that they've played in. Going into this Chargers game, we knew that Justin Herbert was battling the ribs injury, so questionable if they kind of rushed him back or not. But yeah, just they shouldn't have lost to the Commanders in that week 1 game. So if they get that win, they shut out the Colts in the following week. So they could technically be 3-0, which would be really funny. But still, 2-1 for them is pretty good. Trevor Lawrence just looked really solid in that game. 3 touchdown passes. That was kind of like the issues with last year, with Urban Meyer not giving James Robinson the football. And they're giving him the football now, and he's playing really well for them. Just kind of spreading the ball around, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, all had touchdowns. Travis Etienne's been pretty quiet, but what do you make of the Chargers? Because obviously right now their story has just been injuries. Keenan Allen's been out. Now Justin Herbert's hurt. And they were my favorites it's still very early in the year, but they're my favorites to come out of the AFC, and it's not looking too good.
Yeah, it isn't looking too good. Their defense took a big hit. Joey Bosa got hurt and is going to be week to week with a groin injury. And Justin Herbert, man, they are so stupid for what they were doing. Their management of him is so embarrassing. He is a once in a generation talent who has picked up this organization from nothing, and they decided to keep him out there with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter and let him take more of a beating after losing his left tackle in a game that they were losing by 20. What are you doing? It's just 28. They were losing by 28 and they had him out there. It's just crazy. He could barely move last week. Like it's just embarrassing. Yeah, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. They're a tricky team to deal with. J.C. Jackson, I think, is also hurt, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
From the Chargers side, like I'd be a little worried if I'm a Chargers fan. Obviously, there's time in the year. It's only week 3, and we're obviously reacting to what we know and have seen. But he needs to get healthy, and they should not have put him out there last week.
And it's just funny because you look at their schedule. Like, they have a very easy schedule. Like, they took care of the Raiders. Like, barely lost to the Chiefs on that. That was a great Thursday night game.
Yeah, great game.
They lose to the Jaguars. They have the Texans next week, who they should beat, but like nothing's set in stone at this point.
Nope.
Then they play the Browns, who's a winnable game. They play the Broncos, which is a winnable game. They play the Seahawks, which is a winnable game. They play the Falcons, which is a winnable game. Like, they have an easy schedule, but if you can't stay healthy, it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, you touched on this, but I mean, we need to give it up for James Robinson. What he has done coming off that Achilles injury is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He has made Travis Etienne irrelevant. Travis Etienne is a very explosive player, but James Robinson he's Himothy.
Everyone expected Etienne to be like a McCaffrey type player coming into this year.
Yeah.
He just hasn't really done a whole lot,
including myself. But
they play the Eagles next week. We're at home, and I want to say it'd be an easy win for us, but the Jaguars are looking good. So
yeah, I mean, they were a dumpster fire last year with Urban Meyer, like you were saying, but
yeah,
so anything is better. I think Dougie P is actually a really good quarterbacks coach. He made the most out of Wentz, and Wentz is garbage.
He made Wentz an MVP type quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. And Trevor Lawrence, people often forget, was actually seen as like the most can't miss prospect since Andrew Luck. So I just feel like there's a lot in the tank for Trevor. His receivers are playing super well. Christian Kirk has played unbelievable this year so far, which somehow makes the signing look pretty solid, even though it was an atrocious contract. We'll see. And their defense is actually playing pretty well too.
Hot take. You think by next year the Giants should release Daniel Jones and sign Wentz and then bring Dougie P in as their new coach and see what happens? Thoughts?
Just to spice it up with the NFC East?
Yeah.
Well, then we'll take Shady McCoy out of retirement. We'll bring him in.
All the shit you gave, Sam Henry and I for having Wentz over the years, and if you guys got him, it'd be nice.
That would be really funny. I mean, the Commanders. I guess this is a good segue to get into.
Yeah, great job, Jay.
Thank you. Because I think we talked about it every other game anyway.
Yeah, except our 2 games.
He's looked really good through the first 2 games, but I had a feeling it kind of had to do with their schedule. Carson Wentz always has like a couple games where he looks unreal. Like when he was a Colt, he looked amazing in a couple games, and then he doesn't. And when he doesn't, he really looks bad.
Yeah.
And there was a stat that the Eagles had like 300 passing yards, and the Commanders had, I think, -2 in the first half or something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Like, the Eagles' defense is swarming.
They sacked Wentz. They sacked Wentz, I think, a record 9 times.
And look, the Commanders, for what it's worth, like, they have very good pass catchers. And their O-line's not terrible. It's really not. But they went up against a very superior team and had no chance.
It was a very interesting game because A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith balled out in the second quarter.
Yeah.
But going into the fourth quarter, the score was 24-2, which was really funny. And then Gibson got a touchdown towards the end of the game, I think, but very dominant game by the Eagles. So,
So what do you make of everything that's happening with the Eagles? Obviously, it's probably hard to be objective considering you're a fan of the team, but it's hard to think that they're not going to push for the NFC Championship, probably based on how the first 3 games have gone. and how dominant their team has been and how easy their schedule is. Like,
yeah.
So why don't you talk on that?
Yeah, I tell a lot of people this who ask me this, and like, yeah, it's been a great start to the season. It's still very early, but a lot of season to go. Like injuries happen, fluke games happen, so you never really know what's going to end up happening at the end of the year. Like I honestly, at the same time with the NFC, like I was thinking about the other teams that are like competitors, and I just like you have the Packers who are there, but I just don't think they're much of a threat. I think it really just comes down to like the Rams and the Bucks. The Vikings are good, but I just don't think they're a threat. We handled them pretty easily in week 2.
Yep.
So I think to get that first bye comes down to the Eagles, the Bucks, and the Rams. I think it'll be one of those 3 teams. And it's really just it's up for grabs for anyone. But doesn't matter how good the Eagles are. Like they have a lot of talent. Jalen Hurts has looked great. He's got 2 stud receivers. Our run game's been pretty decent, and our defense has been our best factor. Our defense has taken a big step forward from last year. But come playoff time, it doesn't matter if our record is 14-3. Come playoff time, all it takes is one game, and I'd be scared. Like even if we were home, I'd be scared to face Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp. I'd be scared to face Tom Brady again in the playoffs if all his receivers are healthy.
That's true. When they're healthy, that's a formidable team.
Be scared to face Aaron Rodgers. Like I know his offense isn't too scary, but come playoff time, anything could happen. Right now, things are looking really great for us, but we got a lot of football ahead. So trying to be realistic here, and it's still as great as Jalen Hurts has been. He's very mobile, and all it takes is one hit, and he's done. And then it's Minshew mania time. So
that's true.
And we'll have to wait and see.
And honestly, AJ Brown is a very injury prone receiver in the past. So
did you read the story about how he almost played baseball?
I didn't know.
You didn't see that?
Mm-mm.
In the off season when he like couldn't figure out, I guess, a contract with the Titans or whatever, he was contemplating having a workout for I'm blanking on the team name. I'm gonna look it up, but it was an article I read. Let's see what they say. Padres. The Padres sent him an offer to come to training camp, spring training, and work out for them. And he was considering it until the draft when the Eagles wanted to trade for him and convinced him to stay. But he almost quit on football, which is pretty interesting. Yeah,
I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, look, that's really. I mean, that would have been crazy if that happened, but we've seen that almost happen with LeBron going to the Cowboys.
Yeah,
during the lockout.
Yeah, and then the wrap up this week before we take a look at next week. If you want to talk about your Giants, and all I'm going to say, and then I'll give you the floor, is if you're going to take any positive out from it, the only positive I could really find is that Saquon's back. Other than that, just not a whole lot to be happy about as a Giants fan.
So I'll go over both. So the game itself was not very interesting, which is, we probably could have seen coming based on the fact that it's Cooper Rush v. Daniel Jones. But I'll say this. So from the Giants side, I'll say both offense and defense. Offense, our entire team runs through Saquon. Saquon is absolutely back. He's looking so good. Also, Saquon is so hard to not love. Like, I feel like universally, he's just such a lovable dude. Besides from Saquon, our run game is really pathetic. So he's going to be out there a lot. And our offensive line is also pathetic. Our offensive line gave the most pressures ever, I think it was, to a quarterback in a game. Or maybe, I think it was ever. It was 23 pressures. It was so crazy. Daniel Jones, and I am not a big Daniel Jones fan. Even since he was drafted, I have not liked him. played unbelievably. He played unbelievably well for the circumstances he was in last night. Like, it wouldn't show up. The issue with like looking at just a box, it wouldn't show up in the box score. He had probably 3 different plays that were 20 plus that were all taken away via penalty. But he scrambled for about, I think he had 81 yards or 70 something yards. He had 79 yards rushing. Like, he really looked very good yesterday for what he had. Losing Sterling Shepard is gonna hurt. The very last play of the game to a non-contact ACL tear on his left knee, which is the same one as the Achilles. That sucks. I love Shepard. He's the heart and soul of this team. I don't know what the hell we're going to do on receivers because Golladay looked – after saying they paid me to play me and then gets out there and on a crucial third down, it goes right through his hands. He looked so bad. And he looks like a statue when he's running. It's pathetic. Richie James looked good, I guess, as a positive.
The sad thing about it is Danny Dimes didn't look that bad.
No, he looked great for what he was given yesterday.
Yeah.
He looked awesome. Like, again, like it wouldn't show up in the score and the stat sheet based on like his completion percentage and the fact that he threw an interception, which also was not his fault because the receiver fell on the very last play. It looks a lot different than it was if you watched. Like he played really well.
Yeah, I mean, other than CeeDee Lamb, you guys contained the Cowboys. Like,
oh, I think this is actually the number. So he got hit 27 times, or maybe pressured, and 5 sacks. Like that's horrible.
Yeah, it's a bad O line.
Yeah, it was bad. And our rookie tackle Evan Neal gave up 3 sacks on his own to DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah.
Dexter McCluster.
Also, why can't I think of his name? Linebacker from Penn State. Cowboys. Starts with an M. Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a freaking animal. Yeah. He bulldozed over our left or our right guard like he was not even there. And Glowinski is a solid guard, so that was he's a monster.
Yeah.
Trayvon Diggs did what Trayvon Diggs does, which is go for balls. He either gets it or he doesn't. So he gave up a ton of yards as he always does. And he had that lucky interception at the very end because the receiver fell.
On the that CeeDee Lamb drive.
Which one?
He went from the touchdown drive. He went from 10 fantasy points to 23 in that one drive because they hit him like 4 times. And once they were first and goal, I was telling my roommate, I was talking to him because he's a big Giants fan. I was like, they just hit CeeDee Lamb 3 plays in a row or 4 plays in a row. He's all by himself right now on the goal line. They're going to give him some kind of fade route.
Yep.
And obviously he made that unreal one-handed catch. But like, I just don't get how the Giants don't read that and why they're not giving him the safety help to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. I mean, Adoree Jackson's played really well this year in man-to-man coverage. So I guess they were letting him take a chance.
Take a chance
on me. I think we've sung that like many times. Anyway, so I think that's what it was. But there was that one play where it was a broken play, broken coverage, and CeeDee was butt naked, wide open, and dropped it. It went right through his hands, which would have been the easiest touchdown. Probably would have been a 58-yard touchdown.
So next week, and to wrap this show up, we'll go through next week's games real quick. So let's just start off with that one because we're talking about your Giants. What do the Giants need to do differently at home to beat the Bears? A very, very winnable game.
We're going to have to figure out our receiving core. I think that's number one. Like, I really don't know what they're going to do. They do run a lot of like 3 personnel, sometimes 4 wide receivers sets. You can't have Saquon chipping on every single play because he's literally our best player and our best weapon. If you continue to do that, we will continue to not have anyone to throw to. I think they're going to have to strongly look at guys who are on practice squads, guys who are like Cole Beasley, if he's not elevated to the active roster, sign him. Like, we just need players.
Mm-hmm.
Give Will Fuller a chance. Am I right? Love Will Fuller. I don't know.
It's a shame because the Giants are like one good receiver away from being a contending team, and
sure,
they thought that was going to be Kenny Galladay, and that was just one of the biggest swing and a misses.
Oh yeah, that one hurts.
Maybe DJ Moore. I mean, the Panthers wouldn't give him up.
But yeah, like, they don't even use him. So
look for a trade.
I'll say in terms of the Bears game, like objectively as a Giants fan, some people say, like, wouldn't you rather them lose every game than you get a high draft pick? Like, no, I've already done that, like, every single year. I want to see them compete. And if they lose, they lose. But, I mean, with the personnel that they have, even the fact that they beat the Titans at all, and sure, they lost to a Cowboys team with Cooper Rush, but they also beat the Bengals. Like, I'm very encouraged of what I see from the team. So when they actually have good personnel that they can put in there, you know, the team might look a little different. It was also the first game back with Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, and they were both on pitch counts.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, as they get more integrated back in the offense and we get Leonard Williams back, or defense rather, it could look a little bit different. I think the Bears are a very winnable game. That's like, they should beat the Bears. Yeah, I don't really know. I think Daniel Jones, like I said, played a great game last game. He just needs to keep doing what he was doing. Like, he didn't make any errors, actually. He held on to the ball. He threw it away when he was supposed to. Like, he played really well. It's just going to be who steps up outside of Saquon.